all for tuning in today. I'm very excited to be here. Even though I'm dealing with those technical difficulties, I have to tell you, I was not a technical girl living in a technical world till this whole pandemic happened. And now I have been pushed to the brink to become somebody that is technically savvy. So there you have it, my whole tale of woe. Now, I have so much I have to tell you before I start this show with our incredible guest, who happens to be today located in Florida, where they have a hurricane heading right towards them. Isn't that something? So who knows what's going to happen? But this Sunday, we have an amazing show produced by the Imperial Court of New York at Industry, and it's called Latin Explosion. And I'm not going to even tell you who I'll be channeling, but let me just say it's going to be a very, very fun show. And in the piece that I'm doing, I have a wonderful performer named Brian Alejandro. He's going to get on me because I can't get that rolling R no matter how many times he shows me how to do it. I am anatomically not built for a rolling R, but I'm hoping people can come because the doors open at 5. The show is from 6 to 8, and we are raising money for Sylvia's Place as well as a homeless youth shelter. Everything that the Imperial Court does is to raise money for other non-for-profits. So it's all for a good cause. Suggested donation of $10 if you like to walk in the door. But I can promise you a very, very fabulous show. And also, if you're in New York, this Friday night in New York City at Pangea, we have Kobe Cole, the amazing singer. It's his birthday soiree, and he's doing a whole entire show. So you can get tickets online for that, or you can pay at the door. Okay, I think that is it for my announcements. What a week I had. 9 auditions this week. So can everyone keep their fingers crossed or dance naked with a chicken for me so that, you know, even if I just get one of them, I would be totally happy. Okay, let me tell you about today's guest, who has been so incredibly patient. And you want to know why she's so incredibly patient? Because this woman is a pro. Besides having an absolute stellar background in the broadcasting industry and making her own films, casting, producing, she does a whole technical thing where she was able to figure out how to broadcast to like 52 stations. Okay, I'm going to pick her brain on that because that was really, really impressive to me. But she is also the co-host on Cedric the Entertainer. She's interviewed major celebrities and some very, very interesting people. And I am thrilled to have her here today because the last time she had to cancel because of the hurricane. She had no power. Well, she's got power, but the hurricane's heading rapidly towards her. So let's get her on right now. Everybody, a warm welcome to Stacey Toy.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me on.
Well, I've never been so happy to see anybody in my entire life, girl. What is it with you and these hurricanes?
Honestly, I don't know. The last one last month, Hurricane Ian, that was actually my very first hurricane that like I went through, like when I wasn't directing live broadcast news. So it was kind of funny because I saw a guy like in a crate holding a cat going through the water, like in his hips across the street from my house last time. And I'm like, this is the stuff that I used to put on TV because I'd watch it, you know, from Pennsylvania or wherever I was broadcasting as a director. And I'm like, wow, that's some crazy to see. And I just looked out the window and I went, oh my gosh, my whole life's career is like in real life right now. And
right? Like, the universe was speaking to you, Stacey. That's like, right. That was real time. And it was really, really happening to you. Well, you know what? It just shows you sometimes we're outside looking in, and which I far prefer to be in the thick of it as you were with that. Let's just hope everything goes really smooth for you in this hurricane. I can't believe I'm saying that.
Fingers crossed. I mean, I have good feelings. It's mostly just the wind, but my boyfriend is currently putting up all of the window.
Oh, you're doing the whole window thing, right?
Yes. Yeah. Like those 2x4s and all that. So I'm like, we're good.
Yeah. You're good to go. Oh, and my station identification. Okay. We're here with Stacey Toy and we will be right back. So thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it. I had no idea you would have all this going on. And isn't it funny how all of that happens? But with your background in broadcasting, you must be ready for anything.
Oh, of course. I mean, I've worked all over the world at the biggest events, from, you know, the Olympic Games to directing live things like the Sandy Hook shooting, and Eric Freen when, you know, he shot those police and there was a nationwide manhunt. And yeah, I've been a part of a lot of history. But the thing is nobody knows that I had anything, or I was the person who was pushing the buttons, you know, to put it into all of your TVs.
I'm so completely impressed with that. Okay. How did you, and I want to talk about the incidents you mentioned, because, you know, having to deal with, I remember Eric Freen because I'm in Pennsylvania on the weekends. That was huge. Yeah, that was right. You broke that story. How do you keep yourself from becoming emotionally affected by some of these things?
Oh, that's hard. I mean, you have to desensitize yourself. We've lost a few interns I know working in live news because they'd never seen a dead body before. And when you go on scene and somebody's mangled and they didn't put the curd over them yet, they're like, and they faint. And it's like, okay, well, don't get a job in an emergency room or in TV.
Or in the news. Right. So, not for you.
But at the end of the day, like, I get my adrenaline from that kind of stuff. Like, I loved, and that's why I went to school and was an on-air reporter and anchor for quite a while for various different news stations and TV shows. And I still do it, obviously, but what really, really got me was live news directing and being in the control room and being the one who's in charge of putting everything on. Because like the director, it's like all the producers and everybody's yelling at you, and you have all your sources of all these. Right. And it's like your button is the one. It's like, and I remember with like the Sandy Hook shooting with the kids that were shot that day, it was live footage, but part of the one network went out. So they took our network for ABC to go out to the country until they can get like Good Morning America back.
Yeah.
And so I'm pushing the buttons going, dear God, please don't let a kid get shot while I'm on the air. Cause you see them, like they have their hands and they're trying to like, and
but this all happened in real time. My God.
Yeah. And that's my job and other directors and people in live news job to do it. But that's my adrenaline for us. Cause it's like, okay. It's like, once you know what to do, you just get in there and you do it, and everyone flows like such a well-rounded team. You either are in TV news or you aren't. Like, there's no in between.
This is going to interest you. So my daughter's first job, and now she's at non-for-profit, which is perfect for her, but her first job was with CBS. Nice. And they gave her the news that you couldn't put on. So she had to go through it. And it was when the stuff was happening in the Middle East with the beheadings. Yes. That happened to her on like her first week on the job. And what really got to her, she was there for a whole bunch of weeks, but she was working for someone who was pregnant. And my daughter said, I remember her saying this, she said, I don't know how you could be bringing a life into the world and deal with this kind of thing every day. And you're right. It's not for everybody. And thank God my daughter got out of it. But that's why I asked you, you know, you're a mom. How do you look at this stuff, right, that's happening on the screen and divorce your emotions from it? What do you have to tell yourself?
It's not anything you have to tell yourself. It's just you have a job to do. And your job is to focus. And, you know, the thing, like, especially after the Sandy Hook shooting, I remember I got up, everybody came over, told me I did such a great job. And I said, thank you so much. I said, I'm leaving. And they go, what? I said, I'm going home to hug my kids. You mark it as half a day off. I don't care. Right. So I went home so to me, that's what I do.
Right.
Whenever there's bad, terrible stuff that happens, trust me, it hurts my heart. It breaks my heart to hear it. But in the same spot, I also hate the fact that news fluffs things up, because this is reality. And the stuff that we can't tell you on TV because it's so offensive, it's happening to real people. So why is it too offensive? It would be offensive to you if it happened to you or your child. Exactly. Wouldn't you want the whole world to know? It's kind of like, I'm really glad that movie's coming out Till this weekend with Emma's story, because that story, I remember reading it in college, and that was emotional because, you know, a little African-American boy from Chicago goes down south to visit his family and, you know, says bye baby to a white woman and then, you know, gets murdered, killed, thrown in the river.
Terribly murdered.
And then the front cover of Jet magazine had his open casket and there was 15,000 people at his funeral, but they put on the front cover his mutilated face in the casket. That's what people need to see because that is reality. I'm sorry if it hurts. It's supposed to hurt, but this is really what's going on in this world.
Right, but isn't so much of this supposed to be about, especially news with ratings and everything? You brought out a good point earlier. I think, you know, for the ratings and all of that, they have to fluff it up because, you know, I make films, right? And we were in a ceremony in Africa where they were beating the women's backs bloody and the women were jumping up and down and laughing. They just, this is part of their culture. You know, I had to leave it out of the film because I knew I wanted my film to be shown at festivals. I wanted people to learn something, right? And I knew if I left that in, that wasn't going to happen. And, you know, we have, someone told me this, somebody that works in horror films, actually, that we have a cutoff point. And I know you've done horror films too. But with horror films, you know, it's a fiction story, right? And they take you to the brink of being terrified and scared and thinking, oh my God, but it's still up there on a screen. You know, the reality of somebody mutilated in an open casket on the front cover of a magazine is a whole other story. And I wonder, it makes me think, you know, will it make people shut down? Will it make people ask more questions? Will, you know, it make people rise to the occasion? There's no way of figuring that out.
Of course. But at the same time, by making people believe that they live in Disneyland when they live in the Purge is also irresponsible. And Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, not too far from me, was in the first Purge. But I mean, that's my thing. I'm not saying to horrify things and make it crazy.
Right. You want the truth.
But the truth should be told. And it's like, oh, those details were too bad. Well, there's kids like with Slender Man and the Momo and all this other stuff. Those don't exist, but yet people are still dying terribly and tragically. The Juggalos with the Insane Clown Posse. I mean, like, there is so much stuff out there, but everyone's like, oh, it's just music. It's just, oh yeah, well, people have died, you know, and I'm sorry, but like sometimes the devil's in the details and people need to be realistic that this world is not a fairy tale. I mean, you go all over. I've built, you know, schools and all these things in different third world countries. And I almost got what it's like. You know, like I'm a white girl walking around down in Haiti and there's 100,000 people around me. I got picked up so fast. Thank God I had security with us that day or else I'd have been taken away.
You would have been another statistic, actually. I've been to Haiti. I did want to talk to you. Tell us about what you did in Haiti.
So in 2016, I went down and produced with Academy Award winning producer Robert May, a documentary for Lifesong. It's a nonprofit organization that at that time was building schools and a 14-acre facility to help orphans that had lost their parents in you know, the earthquake and all that. So we did the film to raise money. We did the film in July of 2016, and it debuted at the National Convention in Arizona in October 2016, and within the first 20 minutes raised $2 million. Wow. So and I'm so proud, and I post this a lot on my stuff, but just a month or two ago, they had the second graduating class from that high school that they did build. They have a 14-acre, like, secured, self-sustaining facility. They've got homes for the kids. They've got a hotel where people can come and visit that want to help. They have a new school. They've got, you know, food. They've got internet. I still talk to them because they have iPads and can FaceTime, and it is like, it's been amazing to see how film and journalism and stuff like that, it goes beyond. And that's what I really love about it the most, because people have no idea that I had anything to do with it. And that's not the point to me. I just to see it grow and to see all these kids who would never have opportunity.
How amazing, right?
That's, to me, is the big thing. So I just want to always continue to do more stuff like that.
Of course. And you, by your film, you raised awareness, you know, and here we're talking about it. It's like we started out talking about, you got to hit people with the brutal truth. But in this kind of film, you know, I'm sure you didn't show the worst of the worst of the worst.
No, but the things you hit on, you know, like we talked about the mud cookies, how, you know, the kids have to eat the special mud cookies and, you know, and it makes them sick. But when you don't eat and have nothing to eat down there, but it's like a drug trade too. So you can't just go make them and buy them. It's like a whole like, and so we did talk about a lot of that stuff. We saw a lot of things, you know, we put a lot of things in, you know, the documentary. It's a short documentary. It's only like 10 minutes, but, the point is it's reality, but it's the point of showing hope through that reality.
Thank you.
To show a little bit of darkness in order to, you know, make the light so profound.
Right. So I love your whole take on everything. You're watching If These Walls Could Talk. Our guest is Stacey Toy. She's absolutely fascinating. We'll be right back. So being able to raise awareness through what you do, is that the reason you wanted to go into broadcasting, Stacey?
I honestly, selfishly, I wanted to go into broadcasting because I wanted to be the next Joan London. That's what I always told everybody.
I love that. That's good.
Joan London. I wanted to be the next Joan London.
I love that.
And so, you know, it's like one thing led to another, but then I didn't realize until I was like actually put into that position of working back behind the scenes to actually learn and see that, because I'd been so focused on, oh, I just need to look good and talk good and be able, you know, to answer questions. And it's way more than that too, even when it comes to being an anchor and especially breaking news. Like those, you could tell, you know, the men from the boys, because if there's no script, oh, people can't talk all of a sudden.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. I can imagine you've been put in some challenging situations.
Oh, crazy. You have no idea. I mean, I've even got to the point where, I mean, at the Olympics, like I ended up getting a flesh-eating parasite just because everybody from the whole world comes to one place.
Are you kidding? Oh my God.
It's the same one Meredith Vieira got too. She talked about it when she was hosting Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. This was from London 2012. And she said she stuck her hand in the Thames River and she got a cut. And I was doing the boating Olympics and I cut my knee and it was in the water. And so she got the same thing I did. And it was terrible.
Yeah, those are really hard. So I'm a member of the Explorers Club in New York. We have had people that have gone out on expeditions that have had that very thing happen to them. That is tough to get rid of.
Yes, yes. And then, of course, you know, almost getting kidnapped and, you know.
Well, what was the kidnapping? Was that in Haiti?
That was in Haiti, yep. We were in Cité Soleil, which is the UN dubbed the most dangerous city in the world at that point in time. So, you know, what are you going to do? But we go in smart. We have a team. We have security. We've got the, you know, armed vehicles and the kids are with us. So we make sure everybody's safe. And most of the time I just stayed on the bus with the kids and the security. I mean, I'm a white girl. They'd never seen them before. So it's like, but to them, you know, a lot of the bad people, I'm worth a lot of money. It's like, nobody's going to pay you anything. I'm owed so much money that people will not be paying you back.
Oh, that's hilarious. Well, you should have a T-shirt that says, you don't want to kidnap me.
People owe me money. That's why I'm broke.
I'm in a negative balance. That is absolutely hilarious. So you've also gotten into horror films.
Yes. It was all accidental. Everything I've done in my life has basically just been like, right place, right time, accidental. And I'm always like saying yes to everything because I just have that natural curiosity. And
absolutely.
So my friend Joel, he's like, hey, we're doing this horror film called 100 Acres of Hell. Do you want to be a part of it? And you could do public relations. So I was like, sure. I had just left my job at the news station after 11 years. And I had left because I was purchasing a international broadcasting talent agency. And that went awry because of the old owner having some other issues. And
business deals can blow up. We all know
that.
We get
a risk. So anyway, I'm like, I'm not going back to news because, you know, I said my goodbye and I'm going to go see what else is next. So he asked me to come. And within the first week of being on set with them, all of my questions that I asked led to find out that the one producer was stealing. The other producers weren't filling out the paperwork. They already had fines from SAG. And so they were like, Stacey, you're in charge. You're the production manager of the whole set. And I'm like, I've never been on a movie set before. Like, yeah, well, apparently you know more than everybody else here.
Absolutely. So, jump in with both feet, which is what you do, Stacey.
What I did. So I'm like, well, if it sucks, I don't ever have to do it again. But if it works out, cool, because I like Halloween. So wait, if it works out, cool, because you like Halloween. I love that. I'm like, it'll be fun. So now it's on like Amazon and, you know, Vudu, Roku, all those things. So, and then usually every Halloween too, like the Circle Drive-In up in Scranton, they've asked us to come, and like me and Gene Snitsky, WWE star, superstar Gene Snitsky, who's in the film, we go and do meet and greets and sign and stuff like that up there for the film. So yeah, there's just so much, but there's a lot.
So what do you think makes people love horror films so much? It's interesting because the reality of some of your jobs in news are an absolute horror, the things that you've seen. What do you think makes people love horror films so much?
God, there's so many different reasons. Everybody's
the reality of it, the reality of news versus horror films.
The reality of news versus horror films is that reality is way worse, but nobody knows because everyone fluffs it up. I mean, seriously, like working in TV news, like I can't tell you, like every Sunday was on the scanner, bleeding rectals. Every Sunday on the scanner is bleeding rectals. I've heard bleeding rectals because people sat on their bedposts. I've heard of people being on bath salts and sticking.
So wait, you got to take us through this bleeding rectal on the scanner. First of all, what's a scanner? That's something that you listen to?
The police scanners. Yes, they're always live in the news.
And okay, so and where were you working at? Were you in Pennsylvania or?
I was at WNEP Channel 16. America's highest rated local newscast in the entire country.
And where is that?
Scranton, Wilkes-Barre areas. But
yeah, so I actually know that channel. So you were constantly hearing that people had bleeding rectals. What is going on?
I'm just saying, those are just examples. Like that was just, if you just get a police scanner and listen to a police scanner.
Yeah, I have somebody that does that. I know.
And just hear what's going on around you.
Right.
That is sometimes way worse than any horror movie you're going to see. I mean, like there are like, you know, back home, some of the news stories that I did work with was a guy got on bath salts and then he shoved his hand all the way up into his female's rectum, pulled her stomach and guts out, and then was trying to feed it to her before the cops came. I mean,
oh my God, this is a horror film.
There was a guy who murdered a woman, chopped up her body into all these different pieces, and then dropped her all along Interstate 84, which is by you.
I know exactly where it is.
Except her hands, because he kept her hands in the wall so he could use it for himself as a stranger. And that's in our backyard. This is your backyard. So again, horror films aren't that much different than reality.
Yeah, actually, horror films, I think, are fairy tales now. You've totally made me with horror films with the stories that you're telling me that human beings do, you know? Now, what was your growing up like? I see, because you're fascinating to me because you are really, you can execute, you can produce, you can do your job. And you're right, you're doing your job. But a lot of this stuff is really horrific for people to deal with. So what made it so different for you? You growing up, what was
on a farm where your pet becomes dinner. So I guess that's how I can associate this.
Yeah, but yeah, but that's pretty common. You know, everyone knows that about farms, but I'm thinking like some of the things you just told us, my gosh, you know, when you were growing up, were you exposed to like hardcore news or
no? I mean, we watched the news station that I ended up working for because that's really all I wanted to do was that. Obviously I read the newspapers and listened to the radio, but like, you know, my parents, I'd get grounded if they even try to hear me listening to the words of the black and white on Skinamax. Because remember back then you could sometimes hear it, but you couldn't see it because you didn't get the channel for pay-per-view or whatever.
Yeah, right. I know it's limited channels unless you're paying.
Yeah. Well, we were poor. My dad got hurt when I was a young kid, and my mom worked in the TV factory. She made TVs at RCA for 20 some years. And then that company moved to Mexico. So she had to go back to college the year I started college. So my parents, my mom started college the same time I did. But we didn't have much, but we didn't need anything, if that makes sense. Like both kids of my grandparents lived across the street from each other, right up the road. We were all best friends. I really had the best childhood. The only thing my parents taught me is, like, if you want something, and you want to go do something, you got to figure out a way to do it, because
you have an incredible work ethic, and it's very obvious that they did that. But it's interesting that, like, you were chomping at the bit to do this from the time you were a little kid, and yet you weren't really around it. It wasn't like you had relatives that were in the police force. You know what I'm saying? People I know that do this were exposed to something. You were at a farm.
I think just watching the news at home on TV, because
adrenaline.
I could still be famous, but respected.
Yeah, I love that. I want to be famous.
Not every day, because actresses are done once they're off their TV show or done with their movie. So I was like, I could be famous and respected and still meet people and go places and do things, and I can talk and be a people person. And but there's much more than that. You also have to remember you're stuck in court for 18 hours, sometimes 3 weeks in a row because of a verdict, and having to get all the information, and that kind of stuff I don't want to do.
Of course. How did Joan London end up becoming your role model?
Just because she was who was on Good Morning America at that time when I was growing up. And it was like, And then I really fell into Katie Couric, especially right when I went into college, because I read that she made $65,000 a day back then in 2000. So I'm like, I could be smart, I could be respected, I have character, I get to travel, and I make money, and I'm like, yes.
She's actually, I've been on her show, and the segment I did with her was rare antiques, finding things in your attic. It would have been perfect for you too. But as you know, she's a really terrific newscaster, and also a really
widowed too. I'm widowed. And so I remember watching her with raising her children.
Her husband was Gary, what was it? Gary Trudeau.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
And my husband will actually be passed on the 11th. It'll be 11 years, because he died on 11/11/11. How's that?
Wait, Stacey, oh my goodness. And you're so young. He had to be so young.
We were 28, both of us.
Wow. That is
and our kids were 6 and 4.
I was going to say your children had to be little, and I don't know, if it was a sickness or if it was sudden, but either way, all of a sudden you were left with 2 kids.
Yes. No, his heart literally exploded in his chest. He was dealing with a lot of depression issues, coming in after the Navy. He had just got home from the Navy, and he went through it during 9/11 and, the whole war stuff. And he did see a lot of things and had a lot of experiences and PTSD, and we were trying to work through things, and, just heroin overdose. He didn't even do heroin, but, things happen, and it's an unfortunate thing. But as of last month, the 27th, I'm 19 years clean from hard drugs myself. So since I've seen both sides of the coin, I actually went and met with the person who shot my husband up and, essentially killed him. He was in jail, or he just gotten out of jail for something else, but he was like shooting 50 bags a day. So I told him that if he could become the father to his 2 sons and husband to his wife that mine could no longer be, that I would help him, and let's get through this. And so he'll be 11 years sober at the end of this year too. And out of the whole story, he's the only one left. Me and him are the only one left alive. All the other ones through addiction, but they're actually writing a movie. I'm getting a final draft on it right now.
About this.
Yeah, a couple of big studios have been on me for a few years now. So I just am waiting for the final draft to be approved, and I'm supposed to be getting that within the next month. So
you have such an incredible story. You're watching If These Walls Could Talk. with Stacey Toy, who, you know, every time I get to another layer, there's another layer under that. She is such an intense story and such a successful human being who has really, really lived life on such a level, and it's all still ahead of you. I want to talk about addiction, and especially you're from Pennsylvania. We have a huge addiction problem there. You know, you talked about someone shooting up bath salts. I live in New York City, and it goes on here, but I have to tell you, you hear about it far more in Pennsylvania. There's so many addiction issues. Why do you think that is?
Oh man. Well, I mean, I know myself personally, I was taking, you know, between 70 and 100 Vicodin a day when I was going to Oxford University, because they would just give them to you. This was pre-opioid epidemic, you know, and I'm going to the #1 school in the world. I'm on the dean's list.
So yeah, your
energy.
Why did you get Vicodin? Who was giving it to you?
Well, I had, you know, my dentist for my wisdom teeth, tooth pain. I have always had very, very bad ovarian cysts. I've had to always go and get like tests and colposcopies. I have precancerous, endometriosis. I have a lower disc bulge in my back from gymnastics and dance. So I could get whatever I wanted, you know, and plus they knew I was going to school over in Europe when I was in England at Oxford. So, you know, I'd be getting thousands sent over a month because it wasn't regulated back then. They were pushing it like candy.
Right. You're right. Vicodin, you know, I'm thinking back. You're right. Even my dentist here, I remember going for a simple tooth procedure and leaving with a script for Vicodin. So you basically had a Vicodin addiction. Oh,
I did. There was no doubt about it. But I mean, it was for a few years and everything's great until it's not, you know what I mean? And like,
I am amazed and impressed at how well you were able to function with you are what we call, you know, a functioning addict, right? You're there in Oxford. You got to be 10 kinds of smart to get there in the first place. You're obviously were doing your work there.
It made me like this. How I am right now is how I've had to train myself to become like over the last 19 years, because this is how it made me. Like I am still kind of an introvert a lot.
Oh, come on. You are so not an
introvert. I do. I get shy a lot and I am quite an introvert. So, you know, this, how I am and how I like to be, that's how it made me on those pills. And so when I couldn't have them anymore, and I cut out cocaine too. None of that shit. Out the window.
So wait, I need to know, when you were at Oxford, you were doing Vicodin and cocaine.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
And drinking. And I mean, like I was, you know, 18 years old, 19 years old.
And yet you were still able to go there, function, do your classes, and
it made me better. You know, ultimately I have ADHD, but instead of giving me Ritalin back then, like I was using the Vicodin and all of that because it helped me to focus. It gave me energy. It does like the opposite of
normal. I totally understand that. So you graduated from Oxford, right? And got into the world of newscasting, but you said you were using heroin at that point too?
No. I've only snorted heroin one time, and that was in high school.
Okay, great. Yeah, you were a superwoman. It's unbelievable.
I've never injected anything. Biggest thing was just pills and cocaine. And like I said, they've been out of my life for 19 years as of last month. So
right. My co-host, who's not here today, Tim Moss, has a story not all that different from yours. And it is quite incredible how he completely not only cleaned up, reinvented himself. And he has a one-person show about his life. He calls it a cabaret show, but believe me, it's not about singing and dancing up there. The music is about the things that have happened to him, but it's also the talking in between. Tim's show is amazing. You laugh, you cry, you leave there, and you will not forget one evening with him. So along those lines, you mentioned they're going to do a film about you.
Yes.
Incredible. Are you allowed to say more than that, or?
Not really.
Okay, I got that. What about now you writing your own book? Is that in the works?
Yes, because I journaled throughout everything I did. Being a journalist, I wrote everything down.
Right?
So I already have a ghostwriter going through everything and putting everything together for me to, you know, make it better. But yeah, all that's so after the movie, then the book, and then I'm done talking about it because it's over. I don't need to keep going.
Stacey, I don't think you could ever be done talking about it. The essence of who you are.
I mean, you can ask questions, but I'm not doing a second one or a third one.
Right. I got you.
I want, but this doesn't define me either. You know,
the thing is, none of it defines you because you are like a flowing entity. And I think that's what I find so impressive. You go out there, you do it, you get it done. And also, you know, your whole background, girl, you came up hard. All right. Being in the news is not easy. And right. And you're a Pennsylvania girl. All right. And whatever I'm completely impressed. And I want you to continue to tell your story. Okay. Because your story is an inspiration. You didn't come up with a silver spoon. Okay. You didn't come up with a trust fund. Nope. So many people.
I still want to know where one is so I can see. Right.
Well, I'm with you on that one. You and I are going to be racing for that same silver spoon, you know. But yeah, you've made it all happen for yourself,
well,
and that is.
Well, I hope next time I'm up in the Poconos, I'll let you know so we can go to the Milford Diner for breakfast. How's that?
My God, the Milford Diner!
I love the Milford Diner.
Yeah, so do we. I love the Milford Diner. You know, you can get 2 days worth of food at it. Some people have said they're very expensive for a diner, but let me tell you, you can order like the chopstick. You know, you get the vegetable, the bread, and the potato with it. You can get 2 days worth out of food from the Milford. Of course,
but even just to walk around because you could see the antiques or see the museum. Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah.
It is. It's a quintessential perfect town, and yeah, you better ring me up when you come there. Now, I will be right back with our guest, Stacey Toy. So on the last part of the show, Stacey, I wanted to talk to you about Cedric the Entertainer and what fan room is and all of that. That's very interesting.
Yeah, sure.
So tell us about that platform.
You're really making a lot of noise.
Is somebody, no, wait, is someone clanging pots and pans there?
Yes.
You know what? You can't even hear it on this end. And I broadcast from a restaurant. I'm broadcasting from a restaurant. And he's
bringing in all the water and he's holding the door open and the cars are driving by right next to me. And
well, y'all got to get ready for the hurricane. Now, I want to know, did he, your significant other, did he fill up the bathtub with water? That's really important to do.
No.
Why not? You should
drown him. We have a pool.
No, but for the hurricane, you got to fill up the bathtub with water. That's what, when I lived in Fort Lauderdale and there was hurricanes, they would tell you to fill up the bathtub with water, buy all this bottled water, take your windows. And you had all these things you had to do. You're not filling up the bathtub with water. I'm worried for you. What if you lose water?
Yo, you're saying hi quick. Hurry up. We're recording the last segment, but
no, you're fine.
He's the man making all the noise.
Let me meet this person. Who am I talking to?
Hi, my name is Gil Laredo.
Gil, nice to meet you, and nice for you to be on If These Walls Could Talk today. Because you know, Stacey's doing all the talking, so we're going to talk to you a little bit. How did the two of you get together?
I'm sorry, say that again.
How did the two of you get together? How did you find each other?
Oh God, it's a long story. I've known her family for over 20 years.
Okay.
So I known her since she was younger, and you know, we kind of like worked the fair counters together and everything throughout the years and all of that. You know, and then it just happened a couple of years ago. I decided to get divorced, and you know, we just happened to hook up, and as far as business wise, and from there.
And the two of you are in business together. How are you finding that? Does that work for you?
Well, yes, we all have different skill sets.
Yes, but
I love Gil already. He's like
where we constantly are just talking about ideas for work and for this and for that. And like most people get so annoyed with me because they're like 9-to-5ers and they just are like
totally.
So he loves bouncing ideas and I'm always like, oh yeah. and then we make them better. But that's literally what we do all day, every day, because that's what is fun to us. You know?
I think that that's great, because that's where your success is going to come from, and all the projects that you're working on together. So Gil is a keeper. I want you to know that you're a keeper.
Thank you.
Stacey, tell me what you're doing with Cedric the Entertainer.
I am the co-host of his celebrity virtual show called Fan Room Live. It's where we bring in big celebrities, you know, from Ice-T and Coco, Tommy Chong, Lamar Bryant, Lamar Odom. I'm sorry. There's so many people who come on. We started it during the pandemic because
I remember that.
So it was a virtual show. You bought a ticket, and the fan room is just like on Zoom. You go up one-on-one with them, and you get to have that one-on-one
experience. People love the experience.
And ask them whatever you want. And then you also get a copy of the show. And you know, and you can also just get spectator tickets or whatever, but it does stream in 136 countries on Influencer TV and Tiki TV. So, and we're talking to a couple other distribution options too, so fingers crossed. But we just did Crystal Reed from Teen Wolf. She'll be coming out with Teen Wolf in January. She was talking about that. And we do get a lot of inside scoop because we made it into Page 6 quite a few times, TMZ.
Oh, I would imagine you get scoop. Now, I was going to ask you, the people that would sign on for this, you know, they buy the ticket and they get the one-on-one. Have you ever had any weirdos come on?
Yeah. I mean, I always ask the guests, I'm like, do you have a code word like aquamarine? Like, or if somebody's like being weird, I mean, because there were people who had come on with wrestlers I know in the past, and they just didn't seem with it, but they were like, you never wished me a happy birthday and I hate you. And then they hang up. And that guy's like, okay, well, happy birthday now if you ever see this. And, you know, so I have to hop in and then be like, okay, so anybody else's birthday out there today? Because we don't want to miss you. You know,
no, you don't want to miss anyone's birthday after that.
But I mean, they paid $35 to tell him they hate him. He doesn't care. He gets the money.
Absolutely. Can people also subscribe to Fan Room?
Oh yeah, they can subscribe on YouTube and all the, you know, social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.
What a great concept, you know?
It was a cool concept. I was really excited when, you know, my friends kind of all got together with this, because I was not the original co-host. Chanel Omari was from Princesses of Long Island. And she ended up going off and doing her own thing, and she's awesome. She does comedy shows at the Comedy Store in like New York City. Oh, cool. Yeah. She's really amazing. And she may or may not be coming back on future Fan Room, which I'm excited about too. But so they asked me to, and I was the one helping them to get guests in the beginning, just because I supported the show and I loved my friend's idea. And so they had us on with Santa Claus. And the way that I interacted with Santa Claus, like Cedric and everybody else just said, no, she's so good. And so they called me and they're like, do you want to be the co-host? I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, cool. Cedric the Entertainer thinks I'm funny?
Yeah, because you are.
Well, thank you. Like, I didn't even know, but yes. Now I'm like, oh, what do I do? Because my first guest or my first show was Ice-T and Coco on Valentine's Day. And I'm like, you know, like freaking out, like, oh my God, I watched all the reality shows.
I know, but that's easy because they're bigger than life. And if you've watched their show, you know, you know what to say and do and everything. Yes. They're very nice, aren't they?
Oh, yes. They are so nice. They stayed longer, like, because normally we try to keep it to like 1 or 2 questions so that it goes rolling. I mean, there was one show, you know, they were so gracious, but it went for like 4.5 hours. And that's just a very long time to have a show. And to be
the show ran a live stream for 4.5 hours.
Mm-hmm. Because there were so many guests. So that's where we had to start learning how to cut off ticket sales.
Oh, yeah, really. Gil, what do you think of that? That's like exhausting. I'm imagining myself having to stream with all different people for 4.5 hours. Let me tell you, when I first started streaming, I would keep a bottle of wine next to me.
It's tequila.
Tequila is always in the kitchen.
Yeah, right. You keep tequila next to you.
Yeah, he drinks tequila because obviously I'm like,
yeah.
bless his soul. He listens to me.
No, I know. It's great. The two of you are an absolute perfect match. I tell you, listening to you, Stacey, and where the two of you are going, I see another reality show in your future.
I know, we want one. Anybody let's do it.
Our life is a reality show. I'll tell you that.
Oh, I totally get the feeling. I totally get the feeling that it is. But I think what is so cool, and I'm going to put this to you, Gil, the fact that you all knew each other for so long. And that how life works out, right? You know, Stacey was widowed at a very young age.
Yeah,
you know,
and he was friends with my husband. Him, my husband, and my father were all Freemasons, and so that's how they all knew each other.
We're all
So we all raised money for children's hospitals, like he said at the fairs, and you know,
wonderful.
So it was like we all we really got to know each other, each other's families, and you know. We were real friends. And then we got back talking again through CBD because he has a CBD business and I was working for another company at that time. And now, of course, I'm working for him. But, you know, it's just funny how life works out. And, you know,
it's funny how life works out. And, you know, I can't help thinking like, you know, your husband left so early and all of you were connected. If he's not above, right?
I know.
You know, when people pass on,
because he's the first man I've dated like for real since my husband died. And like I said, that's 11 years ago. So it's like, you know, but I always thought he was cute. And my mom told me once that he was such a good looking man when I was a kid. And I was like, I've never heard, because my mom and my dad are so in love. Like they've been married 50 years. And just like in love.
Right.
And so I remember thinking going, he is good looking. And I was like 14 and I'm like, oh, no, I get to kiss him now.
She was brainwashed from a young age.
I guess so.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you still think he's good looking? Do you still think he's good looking?
Oh, absolutely. I also think his eyes look like he can kill somebody, and that's so sexy.
Oh, yeah. Of course, you would love that, Stacey, right? That's the adrenaline going. Might be a possible serial killer. I am curious. No, you are a pussycat, Gil. I can tell by looking at you what I see in your eyes. And again, I'm looking on this computer. But hold on, I'll put my glasses on. Yeah, you have very, very, very kind eyes and a beautiful smile. You're a good soul with a big heart.
I am.
And I have never. But you don't cross you. Am I correct on all those things?
Yes. Correct.
Because then the worst you ever met.
Yes. So. Yeah. And that's when we crossed each other once. we instantly decided we're not doing that again.
Right.
So it's been very smooth sailing since that happened.
Wow.
As we will say, we're equally crazy.
But we know
and that's what makes it work.
Yes. But and you feed each other, and you know what? All your business success going forward is actually going to come from that. You know, you are a team, and that's really, really obvious. And Gil, you're a bonus for me because I thought I was just getting Stacey today. Now I have.
You were so loud. You made it.
Stacey, I'm curious.
When you get invited, you can invite yourself. Yeah.
Either of your kids want to go into the broadcast business or entertainment business?
Yes. It's funny because my oldest son, Gavin, he's turning 18. I'm going to be going to college. So he got together with our publicist, who you know as well, Eileen Shapiro.
Eileen Shapiro and Jimmy Starr. I love
Jimmy Starr. They're the best. So she's actually going to be submitting some articles for her because Gavin interviewed like Shishi LaRue and some other drag queens since he's, a part of the LGBTQIA plus community.
That's good to know. You and I should talk after because my other show called TriVersity Talk, which airs at 7 o'clock tonight. That show is everything for the LGBTQ plus community, which is filmmakers, entertainers, lawyers, doctors. All of our topics are all of that. So can you please reach out to me when this is over?
Yes, I'll send you a text because then I'll send it to him because he's just like me, but he's funnier and wittier, isn't he? He's like, I'm jealous. I actually write down, even when he says something that's super offensive, I'm like, I don't know if I should slap him or write it down. Just write it down. I'm going to use this in the future.
Write it down. So that's very cool. So he's going to start interviewing people, which is great.
Yes. And then my youngest, he'll be turning 16 soon. He's been with a bunch of rappers around that are his friends, and he's starting to write and, you know, mix beats. And so I know it's not the bit, but he wants to go into business too. And he's just following the CBD business. And I'm sure the weed industry is going to get there once he gets older. But, you know, it's just the point that, you know, let's focus on the education first, you know, and like, we'll get you in whatever direction you want, but we got to get you the education.
Yeah, but it's combining both things, right? It's combining the entrepreneurship, the education, and then the creativity. That's what you've done. Yeah. And look, you're a pretty awesome package, Stacey Toy.
Thank you.
So, do you have a few words of it, right, Gil? Applause, right? Do you have a few words you'd like to share with the audience before we sign off for today? Any words of wisdom?
Any words of wisdom? Okay, don't give up. Don't be an asshole. That second one, you think it's easy, but it's really not. And, you know, I don't know, man. Just recognize opportunity. Like, that's my biggest thing is I hate it when people are like, well, you're not supposed to do it that way. I'm like, okay, well then what if we did it this way and it makes it 10 times better? Oh, it made it 10 times better. You know, like, let's always constantly be
that's what makes you so special. You have to be able to think out of the box.
Yes.
And sometimes
there's no box.
You can't get the approval of other people. You got to be bold enough and big enough to go out of that box and say, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah, seriously.
It's true. It is not said enough, unfortunately. Everybody's raised by being put in a box, and you need to be in the box, and you need to be educated to be in the right box.
Right.
You need to be educated to be out of the box.
I'm a fat egg, bitch.
Look for new things.
I love the two of you. We need to put this on t-shirts. We'll start a t-shirt company and make a fortune.
That's right. We should.
We'll sell it online. I want to thank you for being here today. And thank you, Gil, for making your cameo appearance here. And you both got to be safe in the hurricane. And keep doing what you're doing, because you're doing it really well. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.